And Heather, if you would let them know out there. Thank you. Are we good to go, Christina? Is he? Okay. The television? Okay, we're good to go? Thanks, Jess. He's behind me, I can't tell. All right. Good evening. My name is Kath Perrone, and I'm with the League of Women Voters. Welcome to our panel discussion on Ballot 300. We know your time is valuable, and we are pleased that you have chosen to spend this evening with us. The League of Women Voters was formed shortly before women received the vote in 1920. It was felt that in order to be an effective voter, one must be knowledgeable. The League was formed for the purpose of educating voters and advocating on issues that were in the interest of its members. The Jeffco League was formed in 1953. The Jeffco League has 6 units that meet at various times and locations throughout the county. Since 1974, the League is open to both sexes. For anyone interested in obtaining membership information, please see our people out in the lobby or visit our website, lwvjeffco.org. League never supports or opposes a candidate. The League does take positions on issues that we have studied and developed a position upon. For Ballot 300, the League has not taken a position. We have chosen not to take a position in order to hold this forum tonight. Tonight's program will fall in the category of education. In order to be an effective voter, one must understand all aspects of what this ballot issue will change. Since this is an educational meeting, no campaigning will be permitted, and that's candidate campaigning. A little housekeeping issues. We request that all cell phones be silenced at this time. No filming or taping of any kind will be permitted tonight, except for the professional. They're videotaping for our local cable network. This discussion will be streamed and broadcast on local cable station and the website starting tomorrow. Acoustics are frequently a problem at events like this. Therefore, we request that side conversations be curtailed. While it is frequently tempting for the audience to indicate their pleasure with a comment made by a panelist, in the interest of time and acoustics, we request that the audience refrain from doing so until the end of the program. We do have security in the room, FYI. It is a tradition at League meetings to solicit questions from the audience. We will be doing so tonight. You will notice League members circling throughout the forum with baskets with cards and pencils. We ask that you write your question out, submit it to the League volunteer. They will be looked at for duplication and clarity, and then I will read the question out to the panel, and both sides will have a chance to answer. These questions will be asked after the videotaping has been complete and the formal portion of our panel discussion is done. So hang around. Tonight's format will be as such. Each side will be making an opening and closing statement. In between, I will present all the provisions of the ballot issue and ask for each side to explain their position and why they feel you should agree with them. After the closing statements are made, we will have time for audience questions. Don't forget to submit them throughout the forum. Now, let's begin with an explanation of what's on the ballot. You'll notice there were sample ballots as you walked in the room. That has the official language of the ballot issue on there, and I am going to read that at this time. Ballot question 300, shall the Wheat Ridge City Charter be amended as follows? Any action by an agency, agent, authority, commission, committee, city council, department, employee, or official of the city of Wheat Ridge approving or changing a sales or property tax increment financing, known as TIF, revenue sharing or cost sharing arrangement pursuant to Part 1 of the Colorado Urban Renewal Law must be ratified by the Wheat Ridge City Council via a vote of a formal agenda item at a regular scheduled business meeting that is advertised as a public meeting. If the value of the said sale or property tax or TIF, revenue sharing or cost sharing exceeds 2.5 mil, the City Council action of approval must be ratified by the registered voters of the City of Wheat Ridge at a special or regular election. The base amount for the voter approval of any sales property tax or TIF will be any financing exceeding 2.5 mil to account for inflation and or increased construction costs. Every third year after March 1st, 2015, the base amount will be increased by 5%. Effective date. This amendment will take effect and apply to all actions undertaken by an agency, agent, authority, commission, committee, city council, department, employee, or official of the City of Wheat Ridge subsequent to March 1st, 2015, and thereafter. You vote or indicate your preference by a yes or no. Tonight, I will always ask the question, if this ballot issue passes, if this ballot issue fails, so you will understand your yes and no. Cool? Opening statements. We're going to start with the proponents, and then closing statements, we will start with the opponents. We're going to alternate the questions during the session. So up first, I'd like to introduce Tom Landry and Kathy Tolman. Opening remarks?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Kathy Tolman. Sorry. I am speaking as a citizen of Wheat Ridge in support of the ballot issue 300. We are citizens who worked hard to put this tax increment financing, or TIF, measure on the city ballot. We thank our fellow citizens for their support and ask you to vote yes to amend our city charter this November. And here's why. Number 300 came about because members of the Wheat Ridge City Council have failed to listen to our concerns and what citizens want in terms of development, especially the corner of 38th and Wadsworth. Limiting their power to grant TIFs means City Council and developers who wish to do business with our city will have to be transparent and accountable to the Wheat Ridge citizens. We want smart and sustainable development. We'll approve TIFs for projects if they add value to our community, not added costs. We'll welcome developers who can show us that their project produces jobs with good wages and benefits and will increase tax revenues. We'll support projects that complement existing Wheat Ridge businesses, not cannibalize them. We support free enterprise based on market demands, not government-sponsored handouts to large corporations. Smart developers will invest in our city because they make money here. TIF reform is happening here and elsewhere in the country because it is needed. As we speak, there is a regional study in northern Colorado from Fort Collins to Windsor, plus 12 other jurisdictions, looking to develop an improved process for evaluating future TIF proposals. Did you know that once a TIF is paid off, tax dollars continue to be collected for the full term of the agreement? The term of a recently approved TIF in Wheat Ridge is 25 years. Collected tax dollars go to the Urban Renewal Authority, an unelected body whose members get to decide how to spend your money. According to Colorado Property Tax Rights Coalition, there was almost $100 million collected in TIFs in Jefferson County in 2010. These dollars don't go to schools, libraries, or other public services. Think about the upcoming mill levy on the November ballot for the library. Citizens who don't want to give a developer $6.25 million plus interest for a total of $11 million will vote yes on 300. Citizens who trust that developers see Wheat Ridge as the jewel it is and who will not be deterred by TIF reform will vote yes. Thank you to Tamara Phelan for her help on this.
Thank you. Opponents?
Thank you, Kath, and the League of Women Voters for hosting this very important forum tonight. My name is Sue Schaefer. I am speaking as a small business owner, a homeowner, and a former state representative. I urge a no vote on 300, and I ask you to vote no on 300. With me is Karen Berry, the state geologist and a former city council member. First, I must clarify that if 300 passes, it will not stop the Walmart grocery at 38th and Wadsworth. However, a yes vote on 300 will discourage and delay future developments and improvements in Wheat Ridge. Ladies and gentlemen, where is our city going? Do we want to continue to move forward and offer more shopping, more dining, more entertainment options, and make it convenient for developers to improve our city? If so, I urge you to vote no on 300 because it puts Wheat Ridge at a competitive disadvantage. That is why our local businesses oppose 300, the Wheat Ridge Business Association, Wheat Ridge 2020, the West Chamber of Commerce, and even our nonprofit Seniors Resource Center. They all say no on 300. Voting no on 300 is important also because if it's passed, it will be expensive to taxpayers. Any project over $2.5 million will have to be approved by voters in special elections that we taxpayers will pay for. What if there are attractive projects proposed, for example, for $2.6 million, $2.8 million, $3 million, $4 million? Why would we carve in stone in our Constitution an arbitrary dollar amount that ties the hands of elected officials? Now imagine you are a developer. You will ask, when will Wheat Ridge vote and decide? How will this vote impact my finances? Why should I wait around in Wheat Ridge? I think I'll go to Arvada or Golden. Maybe I'll go to Lakewood. Finally, vote no on 300 because it's an untried experiment sponsored by a small number of people. Do we really want to gamble on a risky experiment with an arbitrary dollar amount carved in stone in our Constitution? This does not make sense to me, ladies and gentlemen. 300 sets us back. Let's move forward. Please vote no on 300. Thank you.
Thank you for those opening remarks. We will be taking closing statements when we're done with all the formal question period. To start us off, let's get a feeling for who's supporting or who's opposing. So my first question has to do with who is supporting your campaign, specifically what Wheat Ridge organizations and or businesses or individuals. And I'm going to turn it to the opponents first.
The organizations asking for a no vote on 300 are as follows: Wheat Ridge 2020, Wheat Ridge Business Association, the West Chamber of Commerce, Jefferson County, the Metro North Chamber of Commerce, the Colorado Business Roundtable, the Metro Chamber of Commerce, Absolute Caulking and Waterproofing Company, Wheat Ridge Oral Surgery, Newtown Builders, the Commercial Real Estate Development Association, Colorado Association of Mechanical and Plumbing Contractors, the Seniors Resource Center, and there are 30,000 people in Wheat Ridge, and the yes on 300 people say that they collected 1,000 signatures or so, but remember there are 30,000 of us here in Wheat Ridge, and we don't know how they feel about this, but we will find out. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, it takes sales tax to make sure our seniors can age in place. It takes money to provide recreational programs, senior transportation, safe sidewalks. A yes on 300 takes away tax dollars that would go to improving the well-being of all Wheat Ridge citizens. That's why the Seniors Resource Center agrees that 300 is bad for Wheat Ridge and is bad for seniors.
Thank you. Proponents, do you want me to repeat the question?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah. Who is supporting your campaign, specifically what Wheat Ridge organizations and/or businesses and individuals?
I should say that we started off as a grassroots organization. We've run our campaign solely on contributions from individuals, a few from businesses. We are actually the citizens' voice. We're citizens who came together to enact this charter change in response to our requests being ignored and to our not having any voice in the decision when it comes to making or granting TIFs. And so, consequently, we're all individuals. We're the people who went out, gathered signatures. We're the people walking, distributing flyers. So, yes, we're kind of a different type of organization. We're the individual citizens of Wheat Ridge.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the process. The current process of urban development is governed by the city charter and the Colorado Urban Renewal Law. The Renewal Wheat Ridge is the authority or is authorized by state statute and created by city council. Their decisions are ratified by the city council after the city has a pro FOMO to determine if all numbers are accurate and if indeed a TIF is needed for the project. What I ask of both sides is to provide your view on the current process of the urban development in Wheat Ridge. And we're going to begin back to proponents.
Should I go? Yes. With this TIF, the largest TIF that has occurred in Wheat Ridge history, I would have to say that the process is sort of, broken down. We're supposed to have some sort of public input and public oversight through plannings, through the distribution of plans. And also, TIFs are granted for projects that are typically, that are supposed to pass, they actually pass before the planning board. Of course, this one failed. Having failed, it was just reintroduced again. Having passed the Urban Renewal Board rather marginally, it was decided that it was appropriate for that a TIF was an appropriate response. This is why we're actually intervening in this. Of course, question 300 is a two-part issue. So, for example, smaller TIFs would just be allowed to be voted on by the city council, which is fine. That allows for accountability. The larger TIFs, though, going to the general electorate, as in Littleton, which is just passed in March, seems just one way we can have a decisive vote as citizens in what's done for developers.
Thank you. Would you like it repeated? Good.
Yes, please repeat the question.
Okay. Provide your view on the current process of the urban development in Wheat Ridge.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the current process reflects the process of the last 8 years here in Wheat Ridge. We have earnestly worked for a development at 38th and Wadsworth with council meetings, URA meetings, zoning meetings, coming to planning meetings. I've been to all of these. It's time for us to move forward. I think we need to seize this opportunity. I think that this process has been going on for so long. It's time for us to move forward, to take a stand. And I'll let Karen explain it further.
Thanks. Well, Wheat Ridge doesn't have the revenue it needs to repair and modernize its roads, its sidewalks, its bridges, its parks, and its drainage structures. These costs are the responsibility of the citizens, really, and not one developer or one landowner. Just like most home buyers, developers are looking for move-in ready properties. Because Wheat Ridge is an older community with an endless list of aging infrastructure or missing infrastructure, we don't have many move-in ready properties. Developers will build and replace public infrastructure if they are given some revenue to do so. Otherwise, they move on to cities with move-in ready properties or those that offer TIF. The developer takes the risk. They are responsible for paying off the loans, not cities. Cities get new public infrastructure without taking any taxpayers' money out of the bank. Without TIF, other cities and citizens get these benefits.
How does the rebuttal process work?
There is no formal rebuttal. You will use time out of your next question
Okay.
to respond.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next element of the ballot initiative is the election process. If this ballot initiative passes, it will change the current form of representative government where citizens elect people to represent them and make decisions on their behalf, to voting directly on urban renewal projects matching specific criteria. The current cost to conduct an election in Wheat Ridge is estimated at $30,000. The ballot initiative does not state when the election would need to be held. The city charter states that the city council can call for a special election by resolution or ordinance 60 days before the election. All other procedures would have to be determined by the city council. The question or phrase, what we're asking both sides, is provide your argument for or against on conducting a ratification election. And that goes to opponents, to my left.
The current election process will be very confusing to citizens. As Kath read the ballot initiative, people are not understanding what this is all about. And I'm worried that we're going to spend a lot of money, not just in elections, but in lawsuits, if this were to pass. In Golden, for example, there was a similar issue that went to the Colorado Supreme Court, and it was deemed unconstitutional. So are we going to spend all our money on elections and lawsuits, or do we want to invest this amount of money into a developer with a proven track record and move forward with what our city council has already approved? It just does not make sense to me that we will try to upset what has already been done. So I ask for a no vote on 300. I think we're on a roll in Wheat Ridge. Let's get this done. How long have we all looked at that blighted, rundown area there at 38th and Wadsworth? I wish we had a better or another developer that wanted to come in, like some of the proponents of 300 say. But this is what we have. Let's take advantage of it.
Thank you. Proponent?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. It's provide your argument for or against on conducting a ratification election.
First off, I wanted to say, question 300 does not ban TIFs. And in fact, there have been 2 TIFs in the history of Wheat Ridge that would go over the $2.5 million. Well, they're not banned. We have 2 fit TIFs in the history of Wheat Ridge that would go over the $2.5 million limit for ratification by the council. One of which was the Sprouts project, and Greg Moran, in a public meeting attended by some of our members, admitted that yes, with actually alternate financing, he could have made under the $2.5 million limit. That also applies to the rather exciting new development that's happening at Upham and 38th Avenue. That was just approved by the Planning Council committee 3 weeks ago, under $2.5 million. But the question is, in terms of special elections, number one, the city council naturally shunts elections towards election day, if you'll read that. And number two, what's the difference? I mean, the amount of money involved in a special election is rather small compared to the TIF that would require it. And finally, these TIF processes do take a long time. It would certainly be no additional effort to make it coincide, the final ratification to coincide with, normal election day. So that would be my remarks on how that would change the electoral process. We don't have a lot of special elections. that's by design. I can't see a lot of huge TIFs rolling in the door that would cause this to happen. And if it did, we could certainly accommodate that. The extra cost would be negligible.
Thank you. Moving on to impact. 60% of the city's revenues are from sales tax. The current urban renewal plans are approved for the following areas: Wheat Ridge Town Center Project Urban Renewal Plan, Wadsworth Boulevard Corridor Redevelopment Plan, 68th Avenue Corridor Redevelopment Plan, West 44th Avenue and Ward Road Redevelopment Plan, and I-70 Kipling Corridors Urban Renewal Plan. What will be the impact of these plans if this ballot initiative passes? And it's going to proponent first.
As we pointed out, ballot issue question 300 is not about banning TIFs. It's just about providing public oversight of TIFs. If developers want to come here, they want to participate in those, they want to start projects in those areas. If they do the work, present good plans, they'll be fine. If it's a matter of making a bunch of rather smaller projects, which of course could happen, for example, that could have been Sprouts. It is what's happening at 38th and Upham. They could certainly be ratified by the city council. If they want more money for TIFs, they'll simply have to prepare a good plan, unlike the initial level of planning that was done at 38th and Wadsworth. That isn't that hard. I've come to many different meetings, and I've seen, developers actually just asking for zoning change who've done a more complete and comprehensive job that I saw in the presentations for the property at 38th and Wadsworth.
Thank you. Opponent?
Well, first of all, I think if 300 passes, what's going to happen is we'll get a Walmart and we won't get any other development. I don't know that we'll have any special elections because I don't think anyone's going to come to Wheat Ridge and ask for a TIF. It just will be too cost prohibitive. It takes a lot of money just to prepare plans and bring them to the preliminary process. Why would a developer take that risk when he can go down the road and get a move-in ready property or get a community that's willing to do TIF? As far as projects on the books or in the future that may need TIF, the light rail station, the citizens who are proponents for 300 say, I want sustainable development. Our best option in the city of Wheat Ridge for sustainable development is the light rail station. That's where we can get alternative housing, we can get mixed use development, we can get easy access to transportation, where seniors can age in place, where young families can come live, where we have great transportation. The light rail station will take more than $2.5 million in TIF. There's no infrastructure up there. There's contamination up there. It's going to take significant amount of money to get that up to speed, to be able to take full advantage of the investment that we're all doing in the RTD taxes to have a light rail station. Our light rail station will probably be a parking lot if 300 passes. The Cabela's development, there's a new developer here who is looking at developing the Cabela's, and that will take about $30 million in TIF. The project at 38th and Upham, according to the city manager, will take $4.8 million of TIF for new infrastructure, and it will provide new sustainable housing options. The reconstruction of Wadsworth Boulevard is going to be done by CDOT in the next few years, and that will open up opportunities for new development and redesigning and having a new vision for Wadsworth Corridor, and that's going to take a significant amount of TIF. None of that will happen if 300 passes.
Did you guys respond yet?
Not yet.
I apologize. What will be the impact to these plans if the ballot issue passes? Yeah, you did. That's what I thought.
So I want to rebut then.
Okay. Well, the next question has to do with TIFs, and they're actually up first, but.
That's good.
Okay. Are you in favor of use of TIFs to develop Wheat Ridge? And FYI, there's a handout in the back of the room about the Wheat Ridge renewal Renewal Wheat Ridge, which is your URA here in Wheat Ridge, and on the back side at the bottom is an explanation of what a TIF is. Basically, its revenues are generated used for infrastructure improvements associated with the redevelopment that benefit the public, including site acquisition and clearance, construction and/or reconstruction of streets, utilities, parks, or other public infrastructures, and the removal of hazardous materials and/or conditions. If a TIF agreement is only approved if the developer can demonstrate there is a gap in funding to finance the project. Currently, the city hires a third-party firm to review the TIF to determine if all the numbers are accurate and if indeed a TIF is needed for the project to move forward. My question to the panelists are you in favor of the use of a TIF to develop Wheat Ridge? Please explain your rationale.
Yes, I am in favor. We are opposed to 300, and we are in favor of using TIF to improve areas that are run down and blighted, such as at 38th and Wadsworth. What happens with a TIF, and Karen will say more about this, is that Wheat Ridge will not be pulling $6.2 million out of our treasury, but will rather be borrowing it from the developer. If we borrowed money from a bank, we would be paying higher interest rates on borrowed money, adding to the final cost. But in this case, no on 300, we will pay a market rate interest to the developer loaning us the money. Then what the developer is able to sell, the sales tax will come back to the city. It's like a home mortgage. You end up paying much more for your home than what the sales cost was. So I think TIF is an economic tool that makes a lot of sense for us, especially right now. You've heard about the other issues, the other TIF requests that are coming up. I think we need to seize this opportunity and vote no on 300.
You know, the number of residents in Wheat Ridge over the age of 65 is going to double in the near future. They're really a valuable part of our community, and they want to stay in Wheat Ridge, and we want them to stay. But the city really doesn't have the revenues needed to make sure residents can age in place. We lack transportation options, public infrastructure, safe, accessible, and affordable housing. The only way that we can afford those is by either increasing our sales tax rate or by getting new businesses in the city to help bring in new revenue. We need TIF to be able to do that and to take care of our seniors and to take care of our infrastructure.
Thank you. Proponent? Yeah, of course. And are you in favor of use of TIFs to develop Wheat Ridge? Please explain your rationale. And then if you wanted to address an earlier
Yes.
statement.
Well, yes, we are actually in favor of the use of TIFs. We haven't banned TIFs altogether. All that Question 300 does is introduce a decisive means for public input to enter into the TIF decision. Yes, we would like to see TIFs. If we didn't want to see TIFs, Question 300 would ban TIFs. That's been done, say, in California, Arizona, some other regions as well. That's not a proposal. And why, I don't know, why anyone would think that a bit of public oversight, a bit of demand and, for quality, at least reporting of activities would result in that not happening at all, that's simply not, that isn't what research shows attracts developers to areas anyway. Infrastructure has a lot to do with it. There's also transportation, demographics of the surrounding population. Really, TIF is kind of it's a useful help. It's a useful adjunct to other forms of funding, and we're all for it. We just want to have the public having a decisive input into the sorts of projects that receive TIF, either through our representatives in the city council voting on it in an open and transparent way, or in the case of large TIFs, and like I said, it's not arbitrary, that's been demonstrated, we want to have a direct election to ratify any TIF granted.
Thank you. Here at the League, as you learned earlier, we're all about voter education. If this ballot issue passes, voters will be asked to decide on urban renewal projects that fall into this criteria. How will a voter learn the specific details of a large project and its financing to ensure they are making an informed decision? Who will produce the materials and distribute them? And it goes back to proponents.
Well, as it stands now, the city has had no trouble with trying to publicize or actually trying to pump up the development that's happening at 38th and Wadsworth. We've had several pieces from the mayor, which I actually would say are, rather inaccurate. Gracious dining at the corner of 38th and Wadsworth, public meeting spaces that are just the middle of a parking lot. The city could help. It would certainly be in the interest of developers to produce a sort of program or a project, produce the sort of description of their project that would interest the voters. So it'd be a combination of both.
Thank you. Would you like the question repeated?
Yes, please.
If this ballot issue passes, voters will be asked to decide on urban renewal projects that fall into a specific criteria. How will a voter learn the specific details of a large project and its financing to ensure they are making an informed decision? Who will produce the publications and distribute them?
That's the crux of the issue here. This is exactly why we are asking for a no vote on 300. When you read this, it's very confusing. And any action by an agency, an agent, an authority, a commission, a committee, the city council, department, employees, or officials of the city, who are all these organizations? I think educating the voter will be extremely difficult, explaining the TIF in the first place, but the issue is that we're carving in stone in our Constitution a $2.5 million limit. And if it goes over the limit, then the people are going to vote. And I'm worried that the people will not understand what this is all about. So I am asking for a no on 300.
First of all, I want to say that the use of TIF has not been banned in California. All you do is have to go to the state of California's website to see that. Second of all, the financing deals and the construction plans can be quite complicated. When the first Cabela's project was submitted to the city, I was on city council, I had an 80-page financial document that went through all the construction costs, all the plans, the construction phasing, all the estimated revenues for all the different kinds of businesses. And it took me about a week to go through that, and I had to sit down with the city manager and the independent financial advisor to look through this and to ask a lot of questions, to fully understand what the city was committing to and why this project needed TIF. I don't see the average citizen doing that, and that's why we have representative government, so that those representatives can put in that time and work for the citizens.
Thank you. To wrap up our formal questioning, this will be the final question, and then we'll go to closing comments, and then get your pencils ready. So if you have any questions that you'd like answered that we have not covered yet. The last formal question tonight is, if this election does not go your way, what recommendations will you give to the citizens of Wheat Ridge? And we're actually going to go back to you guys.
If yes on 300 passes, I will ask the city to have very clear instructions on what this is going to mean. It's going to mean that we have to have really informed voters, and I'm worried about the hyper-electronic age we live in, how accurate this information is going to be going out to our voters. So that's why I am opposed to 300. If yes on 300 passes, I'm sure our Proponents have a lot of ideas on how we can turn away anybody that makes an offer over $2.5 million, because we'll have to vote on any offer over $2.5 million. And that will be very difficult, I'm afraid, to pass.
If it does pass, I really do ask the citizens to take an active role in their city government. The reality here is the city lives or dies by sales tax. And if we are not able to attract new businesses to increase our sales tax base, we're either going to have to cut services or raise sales taxes. So if it does pass, I really think the citizens should be involved in the future of the city, looking at ways to either cut services or asking what you would increase sales tax for. Because right now, the city is about out of money to be even able to do road maintenance repairs. And so in the near future, we aren't even going to be able to maintain the infrastructure that we have, let alone put in the new infrastructure needed to really take care of the residents and to bring in new families and to keep our seniors aging in place.
And that's why we need to vote no on 300.
Thank you. If this election doesn't go your way, what recommendations would you give to the citizens of Wheat Ridge?
Well, first I should say I actually have much more confidence in the intelligence and the perceptiveness of the citizens of Wheat Ridge than the opponents of 300. I don't think that it would be necessarily a good idea to drown the citizens in a swelter of detail about construction details, about a specific building or so, but certainly the citizens of Wheat Ridge can decide if they want to put their name and their imprint on a development, which is what a TIF does. They certainly can decide if a development represents this Wheat Ridge that they want, if it does the things for their citizens they want. And if, like I said, if the vote goes against us, I would like to see the citizens become more involved in their city government, become more informed. That's always a good thing. I would say that we're going to have to fight to try to keep solutions being imposed upon us, whether regardless of cost. And I would also say, the value, they'll have to research what TIF really means for a city. Does it mean an actual increase in sales tax right away? The whole point of TIF is, part of that doesn't go back to the citizens for quite a long time. But yeah, more citizen input, more citizen involvement, that's what I'd like to see.
Thank you. Now for closing statements, we're going to begin opposite. So we're going to start with the opponents.
Okay, thank you, Kath and the League, for this opportunity tonight, and to everyone who is interested in being an informed voter. As you've heard this evening, Issue 300 is an ill-conceived, risky experiment that will hold Wheat Ridge back from new opportunities. I ask you to vote no on 300 because it is anti-business and it puts Wheat Ridge at a competitive disadvantage. Vote no because it will stifle new opportunities for shopping, dining, and entertainment. Vote no because we have worked hard to be open for business. This measure adds barriers that will push jobs, revenues, and opportunities to neighboring cities. Vote no because we taxpayers will be left with the legal and special election costs. It's not worth the risk. Vote no on 300 so we can keep Wheat Ridge moving forward.
Thank you. Opponent?
I would say ballot question 300 is a simple means to grant the citizens of Wheat Ridge a decisive input into the TIF granting process. It's simply ungrounded supposition to say that it's going to stop development or even halt development. It actually, is comparing it to a totally different court case, which I believe is Parker versus City of Golden, is inappropriate. We've vetted this process. We've vetted this for our legal authorities. It will stand. All we're asking is for the citizens to be allowed to at least judge the merits of a project when it comes across the desk of the city, either through the representative measures of the council or probably rather rarely through an election to decide if the project merits our support, merits our stamp of approval.
Thank you so much. With that, we close the formal panel discussion. I want you to please watch for your ballots to arrive in the mail starting October 12th through the 16th. Track your ballot at votejeffco.com. Polling centers and drop-off locations are also posted online there. You can call your county elections department for more information at 303-271-8711. A drop-off box was right outside. Did you notice that when you dropped in? Save the postage. All ballots must be received by 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 3rd. Please vote. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Take care.